Yo, morning. Wake up to Rodney. I think this is episode 11. Yo, it's cold outside. I'm rocking the Carrymore today. So anyway, let's just recap over something. I'm waiting for this guy to move and he ain't moving at all. Right, so let's just recap over something. So years ago, I invented this business called oh, he's waiting for his mate, that's why. Yo, who's that? I invented this business called Sports Card. And Sports Card basically was... Can I get out now? Yeah. Right, so Sports Card was basically a way that if you was a youngster, aged whatever, 6, or whenever you first start doing your clubs, 6 to 21, you could, that's it, you could claim or go into any local supermarket, collect points, and that points you could use to get money off healthy food. That was Sports Card, so it linked nutrition and it linked exercise. But it didn't only link those two things, it also linked all local clubs, all local like teams, coaches. It linked all of them, got them all together and centralized all of that information, so you could find out the percentages of people doing sport, registrations, everything, all together on one place. Now, this was my Facebook, this was my Elon Musk trying to be, you know, this international man of business, because what was important was the information, obviously the data that he collected. And I had big meetings with Sainsbury's and Waitrose and Morrison's and Sony, Coca-Cola, Apple. I had meetings with all execs and everything and loads of people on board. But then I realised, and what I realised was, after all these meetings and all this investment and all this money and all this time, the government it's not really a priority for them, or that the then government, it wasn't a priority for them. Now, I'm going to get into why it's a priority now. But it wasn't a priority for them because there wasn't an ADHD epidemic, there wasn't a mental health epidemic, there wasn't a people out of work epidemic, there wasn't any of those things. And so the truth is, because none of those epidemics were there at the time, yes, obesity was on the rise. Yes, there were certain you know, obesity was on the rise, health conditions and all that. But 15, 16 years ago, nowhere to the extent as it is now. So it wasn't seen as a priority, and also the logistics of the card readers and getting it into every club and all that just wasn't working out financially. Whereas obviously now with an app and QR codes, you just app and QR code and it's done. Scan, hours collected, money off. Right. So this is the issue we have. This is the issue I have. So now, fast forward to today. 270,000 young people out of work due to mental health. 270,000. That is colossal. That is a colossal amount of young people out of work, economically inactive. In other words, costing everybody else money. 270,000 young people out of work due to mental health, or what they say a reason is mental health. Now, I believe in mental health. I don't believe that 270,000 people are suffering with mental health. Young people are out of work because of it. Now, I've just been on the listening on the radio, and they're talking about they're going to try and incentivize people to go back to work. I've never heard such video. It's so out of touch. It's untrue. You cannot incentivize somebody into work. If they don't want to work and you're paying them not to work, why would they work? Unless you take away the money. The only way they will work is if you take away the money. Because they're already in a situation where they have no ambition. They have no idea of what they want to achieve. They have no idea of where they want to go. So how can you incentivize? Unless you either take away the money or you put them onto a work training scheme. You relocate them. Unless you make the hard decision that they won't make. They won't make the decision. And I've been on the front line, so I know exactly the type of people. You might get one or two who actually will say to themselves, you know what, I want to do better. I want to be better. How can I be better? Other than that, how can you incentivize people to get back to work? Young people. And look, I keep saying it, ADHD through the roof, yeah. Obesity through the roof, lack of education, and I mean basic education, food, knowing about food. You know, if I hear someone say, oh, well, I didn't know it was bad for me. You know what foods are bad for you. Even the dumbest of dumb people, even Ferrari, know what's good and bad for them, right? So, yeah, I'm not having it. And look, it's not any one thing. It's a recipe of a lot of things. It's people, not reading books, not having a good enough education, not paying attention at school, not getting your GCSE maths and English, so you got to resit it and choose some course that you don't want to do. Yeah, so you're getting pupils. So you got pupils leaving school without maths and English, without the basic requirements, because they've just gone to school, messed about. Yeah, now there's a lack of low skill opportunities. So low skill jobs, there's a lack of them. So it's not like in the 70s and 80s where you could go and work in a factory or Rover or something like that, and then learn while you're in the job and improve while you're in the job, because those opportunities aren't there anymore, because the low skill jobs are actually filled by skilled people now. That's how scarce work is. Young people are having children, so they haven't got the life skills themselves. So when their kids are so when those kids are now 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, up to 25, yeah, when they're that age, they don't have the skills themselves. So how can they pass that on to their children? So we're getting, and in areas of low-skilled parents having low-skilled children. And like I said, they don't read books. They play on their phones, they play on PlayStations, they play on iPads. Yeah, They're not using the iPads as a Kindle to read books. They're not using their iPads to learn trigonometry. They're using the iPads to play Subway Surfer, Minecraft, FIFA. So the understanding that you're trying to get from your youth isn't there. And then there's the geography. So they want to stay near mom and nan. They want to stay near mom and nan. They want to get a council house. They want to get not assisted living. That's the wrong thing. Housing association. So they make up this scenario where the only place they can live is Shirley. The only place they can live is Enfield. I can't live anywhere else. It's just impossible. Yeah. So ultimately what happens is they the congregation of where the unemployment is stays in that area, and we don't regenerate other areas, don't move around like they used to. Yeah. And that's why the poorest state in America is economically better off than the UK, because people will move, a family will move across America to go and work in that steel mine, to go and work in that timber yard, to go and work in that industry, to go and work in fishing, to go and work in the whiskey trade, to go and work in brewing, to go and work in construction. They will move around. The average Brit, some will, but the average Brit won't, because we've made it too easy for them to just say, no, well, I'm not doing that. That's not something that I'm going to do. So until you take away that ease, yeah, why, when they say incentivize people into work, I'm going to say that number again, 270,000 young people aged between 16 and 25 out of work due to mental health. So that means that number's probably double, yeah, but the other reasons aren't mental health. That's what that means, yeah. So let's really look at the figures, read between the lines. So really that's probably 500,000. And these people are able-bodied, able to work. Work will improve your mental health because you've got, you can form teams with other people, you create friendships, you learn, you can do the training. So even if you worked at Waitrose, they do training for all staff. Asda's not employee at the moment, but when they do, you know, I can't speak for low-skilled opportunities because I don't know what they are. Well, I'm not an expert on what they are. But on the radio this morning, the government or the spokesperson making me laugh. How can you incentivize people who you've already incentivized not to work? You've incentivized them not to work. So how can you now incentivize them to work without just taking away the payments? And I put it like this. Look, I would do two things. So for those 270,000 young people, yeah, out of work, I'd bring back national, what's it called now? Not conscription. Whatever it's called when you got to go in the army. So I'd bring back national, go into the army. And in the army, it's not just boots on the ground. It's not just shooting, pew, 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 pew. It's learning the skill. It's learning discipline. It's training. It's learning how to relationships with people. It's learning your role in a team. There's so many things that you learn. And, you know, I went to I did, 2-3 years in the cadets, yeah? And a lot of the things that I learn, I do now, I learned from my time in the cadets. Leadership, making big decisions, taking risks, showing emotion, you know, these types of things. There's nothing wrong with showing emotion, nothing wrong. Yeah. You know, I don't want to quote anybody, but what you're going to do, cry about it or get on with it. And I'm very much a get on with it person. So there's always a way round. There's always a solution. Always a solution. And this is where I get confused with how people have been allowed to think that they, at a young age, don't get me wrong, can make decisions that affect the rest of their lives without consultancy, without any kind of respect for the consequences. So if anything at all, and I say this to any pupil, leave school with maths and English, if anything at all, because you don't have to resit it. Once you've got it forever. Get 2 C's, which is the minimum, maths and English, and you are done. So if you want to mess about in physics, if you want to mess about in art, if you want to mess about in geography, fine, but don't mess about in maths and English. Read books. International book, it cracks me up. International Book Day, yet kids aren't reading books. Books should be flying off shelves. Waterstones should be the busiest shop on the high street. Parents, get your children reading. Read. Education. Now, yes, there are problems within education. Don't get me wrong. But stop trying to label your child with ADHD. Yes, some children do have ADHD, not every child, because as soon as some child exhibits some kind of behaviour, you run into the ADHD test. Don't do it. And it's interesting how the type of parents who do look for the ADHD diagnosis and who don't. ADHD is real, and I believe in it, and it's true because I've seen it. Yeah. However, let's not all run to that as a diagnosis, because it isn't the diagnosis. Some of it is the fact that your child doesn't read enough, your child doesn't pay enough attention, your child doesn't think enough, your child doesn't spend enough time working out problems. Yeah. I let my children work things out. Yes, they might struggle. Yes, they might make mistakes. Yes, they might get upset. But ultimately, in working things out, it makes them stronger. And yes, I'll step in when it's too hard, or at a point where I think they've done enough. And, you know, but you only grow when there's resistance. You only grow when there's a challenge. You don't grow when there's no challenge. You only get better when there's a challenge, and that is probably the best advice I could give anybody. You only grow when there's a challenge. Yeah. You only grow when there's something to overcome. And that's the problem with just covering everything. Housing benefit, food, clothes, universal credit, everything. Oh, we've covered everything, so I don't need to do anything. Take away the comfort blanket or reduce it by 25%, then they've got to find the other bit. So I agree, help people out. There are people who need help, yeah, but in the same way, you've got to give them the carrot. Listen, like and subscribe, guys. Wake up to Rodney, the business elements of what makes everything work.